Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. Today we're going to be going over Avalon from from Harrier Comics. It's an English import from 1987, so it's an oldie but goodie. I was really excited to get into this, to delve into this, because I think it's been a few weeks or a week or so since I've gone into an old indie black and white comic, and that's really what the channel likes, and that's really what I like. But sometimes you get all excited for something, and then it ends up being something that you completely don't expect and are not really into. And unfortunately, that is one of the things that happened here. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own work. This is Random Access. It's a full-size, full-color comic book that you get if you join my Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Alexander Turbin. And this is it's a 12-page, like I said, full-size, full-color comic book, and this month is a teaser for 1900s horror, which is a comic that I created, in which H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard are the main characters, and it's got a cover by Jake Quirk and a fantastic coloring inside. And this is only 8 pages of the book that is going to be coming out sometime, and it's also got a couple pages of new sneak peeks for another book that I'm working on, and a backup by Paul Courtjohn, which is always fun and great. So there you go. You can, as I said, you can get that at Patreon, but you can also get it at my website, alexanderturbin.com. So Avalon is a Harrier Comics comic, and like I said, it's English, so it's 10 pence or 50 pence. This is actually number 10, and boy, do I wish that I had number 1, because they're all continuing stories. I think there's 4 continuing stories in here, and I went through them, and I really tried as hard as I could to understand what was going on, but I really could not. So I'm going to go over the art and a little bit of what I've gleaned from the story, and but I really can't make heads or tails of most of this. There's only one story that I really understood and got, and it wasn't confusing at all. This is very odd, because it's an anthology of 4 or 5 comics, stories, which are like 5, 6, 7 pages long each. I think the longest is the first one, which is 10 pages, and then the second one is only it's only like 4 or 5 pages, and that's the one that I really liked and really could understand. So an anthology like this, even more than a regular comic book, you need in the beginning and introduction, you need the characters. You need to know who the characters are. You need to have some sort of backtracking of the plot, and all of that stuff, and what's going on. And if you don't have that, you get really confused. If it's a really tightly woven script or tightly woven story, which some of these are, because apparently it's a superhero. It's an English superhero comic book. It's 1987, so this is like in the heyday of the English invasion, the British invasion. You've got Neil Gaiman coming over. You've got Alan Moore coming over. You've got Grant Morrison, which hasn't come over yet, I guess, or maybe he has. He did a few things. This is 87. Invisibles came out in 94, so he had done Doom Patrol before then. I'm fairly certain, and so this kind of reads a little bit like a Grant Morrison comic book, especially this first story. I'll get right into it. I can't really talk about the writing, and I can talk about the art as we're going. I'm not going to backtrack on the stories and stuff, because it's just too convoluted and too intricate for me to. I don't understand anything that's going on. It's Diane is the power. So part 1, self-analysis. So this is part 1, and I still don't get it. So apparently she's a FBI agent or a police officer, but she's got multiple personalities. But not only does she have multiple personalities, she's a little bit like Crazy Jane, where she actually changes bodies, and kind of like more like Moon Knight, I think. Well, no, because Crazy Jane, she actually changes how she looks in her physical appearance. And that's what this Diane does. She's a police officer, but in her other alternate identity, she's a trampy looking superhero, I guess. Um, but she's also, and she has all of these dreams or slash psychotic breaks, which she talks about her parents or she talks about other, like she's got these mental um, issues, I guess she's trying to deal with at the same time. I mean, that's why she has the multiple personalities. I guess I'm really flabbergasted as to understanding any of this. If anybody out there has read Avalon from the very beginning, can you please let me know? Is this a superhero anthology with all of the characters kind of mishmashed, or is this just different storylines by different creators? I'll try to tell you the creators as they go along. Script and pencils by Bob Sharp, and inks and letters by John Howard. So that's this first 10 pager. And so there's relationships because apparently each of them have different relationships, but I don't know who they are. Do they work for the police? Do they work for the CIA or whatever you have, CIA, MI6, whatever over there? And then she says, I am the power. Is she a superhero? Then I believe there's references to an evil team that they are trying to fight or something. And then something else weird here, some sort of dome. I have no idea. And then there's like a of casket of little dolls. I have no idea. I am so lost. See, here's a transformation. See, one of the things about her is even though she has multiple personalities, and multiple people that she can become, she can do that like at a whim. She just decides when she's going to change. So she's a little bit like a werewolf, I guess, a were-person. Only instead of changing to a werewolf, she changes into another person. So and then there's tanks here. I don't really understand any of this. It's really bizarre. And she goes some sort of, I don't know, is this like it's supposed to be like an Akira kind of rip-off thing, or homage or something? I don't know what that is. They're building it, or are they trying to break into it? Have no idea. It never says. No one knew why Zodiac had suddenly gone public, not even the majority of Zodiac's members. First the police, then the army, then the specialized Twilight Force, and finally the hunters had tried to reclaim the Z Zone. All had failed. What the heck does that mean? I have no idea. There's no reference to it beforehand. And so it's just one of those storylines, one of those indie creators that I think all of this information is in their head, and it makes sense in their head. And it's like I always say, it's a fine line between talking down to your audience and fully explaining what's going on. And they definitely don't talk down to the audience, and they don't explain anything. So it's really super hard to figure out what's going on. The artwork is really, really nice. It reminds me of Ben Mara, actually, a little bit. This character here, a lot of the poses and stuff remind me of his artwork and stuff, which is really cool because I really like Ben's work. But you can have the prettiest artwork in the world, but if the story is super confusing and you don't know what's going on, then why would I ever come back to it? And I just wish that I could have understood what was going on here, because I do enjoy the artwork. I do enjoy the nice line work, the ink work. The panels are a little cramped, but there's just so much story packed in there that I just can't really understand it. Now the second story, For Better or Worse, by Gary Orchard, drawn by Pete Martin. I really love Pete Martin's art, and the story is pretty simple. And it took me a few minutes to get into it, but it's really up my alley. I'm not really a horror guy. I'm not really into, which is weird because I've got like a werewolf in one of my comics, and I've got vampires in my comics. I mean, it's more like supernatural is fantasy to me. But really what is horror for me is cults and people doing horrible things, knowing that knowing that they shouldn't or whatever. This artwork is beautiful. I love the line work. Look at the intricate line work, the hatching, and there's no really cross hatching. It's all hatching. It reminds me of really a lot of either a Kelly Jones or a Tim Vigil. It reminds me a lot of Tim Vigil's art, which who doesn't love Tim Vigil? He's fantastic. You've got some nice duo shade or duotone. As always, I can't remember which one is which, so I'll just say duo shade duotone from now on. But this is really nice. Apparently, it's an escort service, and they have this one person that is having really rough sex, I guess, with some of the escort women in it. So they have this upgrading thing where he's going to have 4 of them, and that's really the crux of the story. And I like this foreshadowing where she has this. I don't know if she's one of the workers or if she's a hostess or a secretary or whatever, but she has on her table Rosemary's Baby, which is a foreshadowing of what's to come. And so they're really going through this rigmarole of there's this client and he's really has rough sex and he pays them a lot of money, and so they've decided to upgrade him to having more sex with more women. So you've got a good intricate plot, some really nice dialogue. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense until it kind of comes together towards the end. And so they're just talking about this guy, this John. They don't actually call him that. He's just like the client. And then it jumps to the night of when he's going to have sex with these 4 women, and he's just in the lap of luxury. He's just loving life, and they're just pretty happy to be with him. And then they're finally like, "We're gonna tell you why you get the upgraded thing here, the upgraded pass or whatever." And they say there's going to be actually a 5th woman. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, okay, bring her on." So then they blindfold him and they bring him into another room. And there's an altar with a satanic symbol. And there's this evil woman, which I guess she's not beautiful. She's some sort of creature. The creature makes it look a little bit H.P. Lovecraftish, which makes that even cooler. So they bring him in, and apparently this demonic, I don't know if this is supposed to be a statue or if this is supposed to be actually Satan or something like that. I think it's supposed to be actually Satan, which if anybody has watched Evil is a fantastic show, and I highly recommend it. It is one of the greatest shows of last year and probably deserves some Emmys. It's about a trio. It's a little bit X-Files-y, where you have this trio of people, a priest, a psychologist, and a scientist, and they go to these places where they think or somebody asks for an exorcism, and the church sends them to this place to investigate to see if they really need an exorcism or if it's a hoax or if it has some sort of other kind of meaning or whatever. So it is a fantastic show. I think it went 4 or 5 seasons, and it's really, really great, and I highly recommend it. And it reminds me a lot about this, because there'll be like a haunting or something, and then they'll realize they'll uncover it, or they won't, and there's like other undercurrents and stuff. So that's a really great show. I'm gonna do a whole review of that. I might even go episode by episode and do a whole review of that. I think that really might be fun. So he's there to father satanic children in these I guess they're not going to, I don't know if they're going to sacrifice him. Their groom was unconscious but still breathing. I guess they were going to just have as much sex with him as they can, and especially this evil creature and they were trying to spawn Satan's baby or whatever, and which is the reference to Rosemary's Baby, which is what happens in the book and in the movie, is she has the devil's son, which I kind of want to watch that movie. I've never have. But that is a really good, solid, short 4 or 5 page story, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the art. I really love the intricate line work. I love the hatching or the feathering. It's like a combination of hatching and feathering, which I do I love feathering? I think I like feathering more than hatching because it's got that thick to thin line. It really is something that I really like. And then this is really, it's got a lot of nice texture. And it's not just hatching. It's not just feathering. It's not just doing little wiggly lines. It's a lot of different texture that just makes a lot of sense. And I really like it. This story, I have no freaking clue what it's about. The Night Part 3, I guess. So I'm dropped in the middle of this. They give you no explanation of any of the characters or anything. And the panels are so cramped and the dialogue is so direct, like these characters are talking to each other with no frame of reference as to what's going on. So I'm not even going to try to figure this out. It's even more complicated and convoluted than the first one. They are superheroes of sorts, I guess. I'm not sure. It's called Three-Way Split, and NGD 06 OG NGD OG or 06. I don't know. I can't make it out. You know, when you're trying to do cool stuff with a logo, with a slogan or your name, you know, you say you're trying to make your name into like a logo or something like that. That's cool. But make sure it's legible. Make sure people can read it, make sure they can understand it, and they know who it is and they know what it is. Me, I don't have a logo. I've tried multiple times to have a logo as my name. I've had like little scimitars, you know, an A and a T or whatever. And then I just decided my logo is going to be no logo at all. So I don't actually even sign any of my work or anything. So if you see some of my work, you either know it's from me or you don't. So I do love this art. It reminds me of Lloyd. I can't remember his name. The guy that does Vendetta, V for Vendetta. It reminds me of him. Lloyd something. Anybody that can remember, let me know. But there's just so many panels, and you know, they're trying to do this weird all the way across panels. There's no variation. There's no distinction. I don't like that because I feel like some panels deserve more attention and more excitement in one big panel, or more story in another panel, a quiet moment in a little panel, or a big panel, you know, something super exciting happens or something super important to the story, or a double page splash page or a double page spread if it's really super exciting. So that's really kind of my thought process as to the size and density and stuff of panels. So when you have a page which is just and sorry if you can hear my dogs upstairs. They're wrestling. It's springtime and they're restless from the months of cold and freezing cold and stuff. So they're all wound up upstairs. So all of these panels being the same size makes me feel like they're all equally important, but I just don't know. I can't make heads or tails of this. And it makes it very difficult to review anything like that. I do like the art. The faces are it looks like they took pictures they photographed stuff, and kind of superimposed stuff in a photocopier. Is an 87, remember? So they did some of that kind of stuff where they simplified things. Maybe it even kind of looks like maybe they drew it small and then they blew it up. That's possible too. It does have some nice line work, and it does have some nice texture, and I do like some of the cross hatching and the different stippling effects and stuff. It definitely does look like it was drawn small, maybe to be a mini comic, and then they blew it up, kind of like Chester Brown did for Yummy Fur. I don't know if he did that for Yummy Fur or for Ed the Happy Clown, but yeah. So and then the next series, the next story, because this just starts, it ends, no clue what's going on, not even going to try. It's got some sort of it has characters, something happens, somebody gets shot. I don't know what's going on. If anybody has this comic, Avalon number 10, and you would like to help me explain it, I would love that. Because, you know, in reviewing these black and white indies, that is part of the, especially if they're power comics, but that is some of the difficult position that we're in when we're trying to see some of the stuff that's going on, is that we're trying to figure out what's going on in the artist's head. And because he doesn't have an editor, a lot of this stuff an editor would find, and they'd be like, hey, you need to fix this, you need to explain this a little bit better, it's a little bit confusing. And if we all had, I don't know, maybe if there was like an indie comics editor who just like edited all kinds of stuff all day, every day for indie comics and just indie comics. And we just, kept him in the basement or something. And so he just had to work all day, every day. And we just kept feeding him indie comics for him to edit. I think that's a fantastic idea. But I don't want to be the guy doing it. So there's another superhero story, part 3, City Lights. The Kraken wanted her, Babel wanted her, the friends wanted her. It's all part of executive stress. No idea what's going on. There's these characters, they just kind of pop in, which is one of my gripes for the X-Men movies. I love the X-Men movies, and I've actually rewatched Apocalypse last night, and that's actually a lot better than I remember it. I think I maybe only had seen it once or twice or 3 times, and really it's a better movie than I thought. One of my gripes for that in most of the X-Men movies is that they just kind of introduce characters, mutants, without any kind of backstory or anything like that. Sometimes they do a fantastic job. Sometimes it's amazing, like when they introduced Nightcrawler with the presidential scene, or when they introduced Angel with his cutting his wings off, or Magneto, in the beginning with the Holocaust and stuff. Those are so fantastic that I want some sort of introduction to all of the characters. I don't just want, hey, that's Psylocke. She's, don't explain anything about her. Don't explain any kind of backstory. Don't explain anything. But she's kind of a big part of the movie. Here she is. That's it. I think they thought they could get away with it because she's a beautiful woman in a scantily clad outfit. But I just didn't really like it that she didn't have any backstory. I want some sort of backstory and some semblance of knowing what's going on and not being any confused whatsoever. But I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. I'm gonna have to rewatch Phoenix. Didn't like that at all. I think that's probably the worst one of all of the X-Men movies. But anyway, here's some characters, and they're doing something. I don't know. Somebody's shooting somebody. Don't know why. Don't know who. Don't know what. Somebody's asleep, and she gets awake. And then they go to some sort of other location. Don't know why, don't know who. Maybe she's sleeping through the whole thing. Is she asleep during the whole thing? And then she wakes up. But then this person grabs her. The bad guys? I don't know who the bad guys are, who the good guys are, who's fighting who, what's going on. Doesn't make even the lick of sense. And they even do this, which is put the back page on the inside back cover, which I don't like. I did that for quite a while, and thank you, John Withers, for getting me to stop doing that, because he was like, you gotta have those interior pages and have that back cover and cover and stuff, because it just doesn't work. And he is 1,000,000% correct. So thank you, shout out to him. And this back cover, inside back cover, something to do with her being a sister of her, and they're doing something. I don't know. Are they contacting the devil, spirits, creatures? I have no clue whatsoever. And it really is frustrating, because I really was excited to read this. And I believe that this is part of it. The back cover, it says to be continued, but I really don't understand any of it. So out of the 3 stories, it says 3 action-packed story serials. 1, 2... Yeah, there's 4. There's 4 stories in here, so I don't know why says there's 3. But this one is really good. Let's see if I can find the name of the artist and the writer that did this. Yep. Nope. A. Sharp Willett's Cosmic Caper. I have no idea. No idea who did this. Let's see in the beginning. As you know, my eyesight's not the greatest. City Lights, Part 3, Executive Stress. Is that what that is? That last storyline? Um, yep. Executive Stress is by Rob Sharp and Dean Willett. Dean Willett. It's hard to read because the print is really super small. My eyesight's not that great, and it's no, it's an older book. This is from '87, so it's an older book. So anyway, Avalon. I really, really wish that I had enjoyed it more. I really wanted all three of the stories, which there's four stories. Diana the series, that has, I don't know. This is part one. I should really know what's going on, or they should be able to tell me what's going on. And so I really, really wanted to like it. I did enjoy the art. So if you're just reading comic books for the art and you don't care about the story, I wholeheartedly recommend this because there's a lot of really cool stuff in it. Really, a lot of great black and white art. Really, a lot of really, really great line work and ink work and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's just really confusing on most of the things, and they're all disjointed. I don't know if they're supposed to be connected in whatever. So it is what it is, and so there you go. So I'm gonna give it a grade of the art I like. So I'm gonna give it a 6. I can't get a 7 because, as you guys know, 7 is where I will go looking for more, or 7 is not even I'll go looking for more, but if I see more in the dollar bin, and then I'll grab them. Then I'll pick them up, no questions asked. I will not pick up more Avalon. I would not really want to go through that read again. It's hard to read, and it's so, when it's unenjoyable to read and you love reading comic books, that's like a double whammy because you want it to be good, but it's not. It's like playing a video game that you've really looked forward to and you love, the characters or whatever, and it's just a bad game. You just have to slog through it, and it makes it even worse. It's something, if you really didn't like something, then you might read it or watch it or whatever, and then you might think it's better than that. I've had quite a few movies where I went into with really low expectations, and by the end of it, I watched it and I really kind of thought it was okay. This, I went in with kind of higher expectations, and it really did not work for me. So it doesn't get that 7, doesn't get that baseline of a 7. And because I rate indie comics a little bit higher depending on what I think their skill level and stuff is, and the art really. I'm gonna give it a 6 just for the art. The stories are really not very good as far as understanding. That second one I said I was pretty good, but even then it took me a while to get into it, and it's really kind of such a simple story that it really doesn't. I'm not going to give it any more. So I'm going to give this a 6, and let me know if you guys have any Avalons or anything from Harrier Comics that's a little bit more understandable and legible. So anyway, there you go. Harrier Comics, Avalon number 10. Again, let me know if you've seen it, if you haven't. And thanks for watching. And if you're new to the channel, this is exactly what the kind of stuff that I generally do. I also do different stuff. I do some Marvel and DC. Like I think on Friday, I'm going to start going through the comic books that Rogue from the X-Men. Yes, I know, more X-Men stuff. I'm going to go through Rom's Space Knight, which is her second appearance, tied with X-Men 158 for her second appearance. And then I'm going to look at Dazzler 22, 23, and 24. And then I'm going to look at her first joining the X-Men, which is 172. I can't remember. I'm going to have to look that up. That was one of my hardest books to find, but I'll get into that when I get into that. Let me know if you're interested in that or not interested in that. I would love to hear in the comments. So if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscription button and the notification bell and all of that cool stuff. But even more than that, if you're new, I'd really like to hear comments from you, because I'm here because I love comic books, and I'm trying to bring different aspects of comic books to the YouTube comic book community. And I'm always looking for people to chime in on what they like, what they don't like, and stuff like that. So let me know. I love the conversations that we have, that I have with all of the comic fans out there in the world, and it's my favorite thing to do. So Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you again on Wednesday when Joe and I are live streaming at 2:30, and we're going to discuss. Go vote. The vote is still going on until Wednesday, and it's John Romita Sr. and Gene Colan, and it's in a tie 50-50. So I don't know who we're gonna choose if it's a 50-50 tie. So go vote. It's on a poll in my feed or whatever, my YouTube feed or whatever. So just go to my channel, and I think you can find it. But I'll put it, in the description. And we're going to be looking at a couple more artists, and just keep on cranking like that, because that's really super enjoyable for me, comparing and contrasting all of these fantastic artists, and then try to figure out who I like more and who I don't like as much. It's a fun time for everybody, and so just join in the fun and let me know who you voted for. That's another thing. I'd love to hear you guys. Give me why you voted for. Somebody said they don't have any of John Romita's comics, I think. So he said that's why he voted for Gene. So if you don't have any of somebody's comics, and you know that's why you vote, or if they did some of the characters that you like more, something like that, if that's why you voted, or you've never even heard of them, one guy, but you've heard of the other guy, and that's why you're voting for him, let me know. I would love to hear that kind of stuff. So thanks for watching, and until Wednesday, and I'll see you later. And as always, keep on creating.